GM, everyone. Hey, hi, Eamon. Great to have you here. Everybody, please meet Eamon, Head of Solution at thirdweb. He will host a workshop today on sharing updates on Nebula and also introducing some of the MCP servers from thirdweb. Before we get started, Eamon, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's morning for me. I don't, I'm sure for folks who are here, it's, everything from morning to afternoon to evening. So it's great to be here and excited to be with the Cello community.
Amazing, great. Yeah, we love thirdweb. I think we have a lot of builders using thirdweb in the applications. So I think this will be amazing updates. Cool. I just want to share like a very quick intro into like what's going on right now in Cello, and then we can dive right into thirdweb. So just this stream is part of the builder stage, which is part of the ETH um, campaign. Cello is now an L2 on the OP stack as part of the Ethereum ecosystem, and for that, and that is great news for all our builders. We have amazing dev toolings, and that's why we want to showcase all of these amazing tools that will help you scale your projects and your apps and to build amazing applications with great user experience. Today we have thirdweb. Hi. And just a little disclaimer, we'll share that also later. But like, please, if you are interested in building on Cello, make sure to sign up to Proof of Ship, which is our continuous builder program that is renewing monthly with like monthly rewards, where you can also kind of sign up for all other reward campaigns currently happening in the Cello ecosystem. So make sure to sign up, and we will send you a lot of we will send you an email very soon with all information on how to get started building in the Cello ecosystem and about the opportunities. And now I will already invite you to get started. Eamon, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to just drop them in the comments. I'll also monitor like any Twitter comments. So wherever you're watching from, please just feel free to comment, and Eamon will be there to answer all of your questions.
Yes,
Eamon,
yes. And
was yours.
thank you. Thank you, Lena. So hi, everybody. As Lena said, my name is Eamon. I've been with thirdweb for close to 4 years now. I lead the solutions team. So what that means is I'm on the front lines. I work directly with developers, with customers, with projects, everything from games to folks that are launching Web3 platforms, consumer apps. Um, and so what I love about my job is I get a front row seat to cool stuff that folks are building. And we at thirdweb, just to give a really quick intro about thirdweb, is we're a full stack Web3 tools and infrastructures for folks that want to build on EVM chains like Cello. And so I hate slides. And so I just like to show like stuff in action. And as we do it, because as before I dive into like let's start looking at some apps. Let's look at the kinds of things that you can build with thirdweb. I want to talk a little bit about how AI sort of relates to this. So we actually at thirdweb, our mantra and our vision is always to make Web3 development easy for developers. And what that means for us is it means that we should be providing tools and infrastructure kind of across wherever developers are building and the types of apps that that developers are going to build. And so that means that we cover a lot of different SDKs. So you as a developer can choose the platform the language and platform that makes sense for your application. But it also means that as new classes of applications, in particular like AI, which is a hot topic across the board, and AI plus blockchain obviously being also having a lot of developers thinking about and looking at what the possibilities are. It meant for us at the beginning of this year that we wanted to release a set of tools as well that would allow developers to both have access to an LLM that would allow them to, that would be blockchain aware in a real time sense of really being able to read, write, and analyze a blockchain, as transactions are happening. And then also, what are the tools that folks are going to need for building their own AI agents? And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'll focus on that. Before we do that, what I'll do is let me just show a live app. It's an app that everybody can relate to. I mean, what this is just a showcase app. Actually, token marketplace, thirdweb preview. It has a link to a GitHub. But what it does is it shows you kind of the full stack of what thirdweb provides in in one application. So, first of all, if you're building an app, one of the first things you're thinking about is how do you onboard your users? And so the idea of being able to provide in-app email or social wallets, right? For folks that maybe aren't crypto natives, they don't have a MetaMask or their own EOA wallets. You want them to be able to log in very easily. I can do that here. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to log in with my
Eamon, can you zoom in a bit more?
I can. Is that better?
The more you zoom in, the more we see.
Okay,
Some
perfect.
people watching this on their phone, so I think.
Oh, wow. All right. I love it. All right. Hopefully that's better. Okay.
That's perfect. This is great.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So I've logged in now. That was just as easy. All I did is I just my Google email. The other piece that you see here is what we're doing is we're reading a variety of tokens across a variety of EVM chains. We're able to read the pricing information. We're able to get historical data. What we have at thirdweb is we have those sorts of APIs that you can easily incorporate into your application, whether you're looking for prices, whether you're building a leaderboard in a consumer app, you can get to blockchain analytics. And then the other piece of it is you want to monetize your app. We think of it, if you go to thirdweb.com, you'll see that we say it's build, monetize, and scale. Those are the three verbs that, and I think everybody, a builder wants to build, but obviously we also want to be able to make money. And so what we also provide you are tools that allow you to monetize directly on your application. And so, for example, in this case, if I wanted to buy Godcoin here, I have the ability without having to leave, without having to, let's say, bridge. Let's say you wanted to sell in USDT or USDC or something using stable coins. This gives me the ability in a very easy way for me to either pay with a wallet and bridge and swap assets very easily from, let's say, Ethereum mainnet to Celo, if I'm transacting on Celo, as well as providing a fiat on-ramp as well. So that's kind of the piece. We call that universal bridge, and that's about making monetization very, very easy for you. And then the last piece that I wanted, and this is really the segue into AI, is our showcase app here also has a little AI component. And so if you go here, and there's an AI assistant. So what's powering this is our Nebula LLM. So what is Nebula? Nebula is our own fine-tuned LLM that we've built at thirdweb. It's an agentic LLM, has access to a whole bunch of tools, as well as knowledge about smart contracts, about ABIs, about transaction histories, about prices. And so what it allows you to do is it allows me, for example, here in my application, this gives, we call this like talk with the token is what this feature is. And so, it has the context here that we're talking about this contract on Ethereum mainnet. So I can ask it a question like, well, what is the total supply? And so what's happening here behind the scenes is that request has gone to Nebula, and just like other LLMs that folks are used to let's say OpenAI or Claude or whichever one you choose, what's happening here is Nebula is processing this request, and because Nebula has access to tools that gives it direct access to the blockchain, what it can do is it can actually read directly from the smart contract and provide the results. So this is like a very, very small example of kind of a full stack app. It has wallets, it has analytics, it has monetization, and it also has AI. And it's a really great showcase, Lena, of like,
And it's also called God Coin and God AI Assistant.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, we could have picked a different one. Maybe something a little less sacrilegious. So I could have come here.
And then it's called G7 AI Assistant. Okay, so it's always like for any hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want people probably left thinking that the AI super intelligence was already here.
I was thinking, I was like, that is a crazy ambitious name for an AI.
No. We call our AI Nebula.
Okay.
Not God. The token is called God. Were there any questions? Were there any questions so far, just about like the kinds of things?
I don't see any questions. I think a lot of people also already like have tested out Nebula. We had like even last year, I think, like a lot of people here got like very early access. So I think that's already cool. But like, yeah, everybody who's listening, please feel free to ask any questions.
Awesome.
But I think we can
move on. Yeah, so I'll move on. So listen, if anyone is interested, like in double clicking into anything that I just talked about, I'd say the best live example for people to go to is playground.thirdweb.com. If you go to our playground, then that's where you can see live examples with code examples of all of the components that I showed you in that application. So I talked about wallets. You can find out about everything we do with wallets. Universal Bridge was the monetization. Transactions has to do with being able to provide rewards via an API. And then Insight was the analytics that you saw there. So that's all I'm going to, that's the end of the commercial about like everything that you can build with thirdweb, and where folks can go if they want to get into more technical details about that.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So now let's dive into AI. So the way to think about Nebula with thirdweb is the same way that you could with OpenAI. Think of OpenAI has a first-party application called ChatGPT, which allows you to interact with it and human to LLM sort of conversation, as well as perform tasks. So that is what Nebula is. And then similar, if you're building an application with OpenAI, there's the OpenAI APIs that you can use to build your own AI-based applications. Similarly, with Nebula, we have an API that you can interact with programmatically and integrate into your application. But like, if you're like me, before I start building with an AI, I like to get to know that AI. And so I'd highly recommend that folks, like, if they haven't already accessed Nebula, it's free to access. All you have to do is just go to nebula.thor.com and you can sign in and create your own account. So I'm going to sign in here, and then I just want to get people a little bit familiar with what the capabilities are. And then from there, I'm going to dive into the dev tooling parts of this. So I am going to log in here. And so that's kind of the first thing to kind of think about here, is that I've logged in, I'm going to be interacting with Nebula. But what I'm also doing is I'm connecting with a wallet, right? And it's very, very important, because one of the things that Nebula can do is Nebula can actually perform transactions on your behalf. So what I can do is I can, for example, ask it to deploy a new meme coin on Cello, and we can do that. We can do that example here. And so what Nebula has the capability to do is, as I tell it to do things, it can actually build transactions. It can encode and simulate those transactions, and then it can return that transaction such that what I can do then is I can approve that transaction using the wallet that I've made available to the agent. And so in this particular case, when I'm using Nebula, the app, I'm using this wallet that you see here. So, you know, what can you do? And let me make this bigger, I think, Lena, right? We probably should make this bigger too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Always zoom in. Your screen is just huge.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So you know, so what can I do here? So first of all, like I can say, well, you know, I can set the context here, right? So I want to work on Cello because it's the coolest, right? Lena, I think you would agree with me that it's like, you're not biased, of course, but it's a pretty cool chain, I've heard. All right.
It's a very cool chain. Cello is, I think, in my opinion, just like very subjective. It is the coolest chain to build on.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for prompting.
Look, we have to have fun with this thing. All right, we have to have fun. So what are the kinds of things that I can do? I mean, I said that it can read from the chain, so I can do that. So like I can say things like, let's just say I want to say, well, you know, what was the last block on Cello?
Can you also ask questions like, how much gas fees is one simple transaction, or how fast is one transaction?
Yeah, so we can do a lot of things here. Like, so, you know, I kind of like start with like, hey, you know, first of all, what it's doing here is it kind of like, it can tell you block information.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of one thing that it can do. The other thing that it can do here is if I just kind of go here and let's just say that I am going to grab a transaction. Okay, like here we go. Like I'm just going to grab just this transaction here. I can go back to my Nebula here, and I can say analyze this transaction. And so you can see what's nice about Nebula is that it's a reasoning AI. And so what you're going to see here is it kind of gives you updates of what it's doing, right? And so what it's doing is it's reading the blockchain right now, you know, to get that information. And then what it's doing here is it's kind of giving me the details, right? So it's giving me the analysis. So some of the things like you just asked about, Lena, you kind of see implicitly here, right? So what it does is it's not just, you know, it's telling me kind of basic information. It's telling me about what function was called, how much gas was used, that, you know, what the value that was transferred, events that were emitted, right? From it, you know, what was the amount, as well as like some interpretation here. And so I've actually, you know, one of my most useful uses of Nebula actually is I don't use really blockchain explorers anymore. It is much easier for me to just go to Nebula and just Nebula. Just, can you explain it to me? I mean, I can go here and I can kind of look at this stuff, but it uses too much brain power a little bit for me to read all of this.
We don't want to use our brain anymore. No.
I agree. No more brains. Let the AIs do everything for us. So this is, you know, but it's also kind of aware of you know, I can do things like, you know, here I'm kind of looking at some of the tokens on Nebula. I'm sorry, on Cello. So I you know, I can ask it like, well, you know, what is the USDC address on Cello, right? And so it can also, what it can do is it can also, it'll look up information. It can get prices. You're going to see here, it's asking me, sure, tell me the price. So there's kind of like this, like, when I say that it's blockchain aware, what I also mean to say is that, like, all I had to say was USDC here. I didn't have to go grab the contract address. And that's what I mean when I say that we've kind of fine-tuned the model. We've read the contracts. We know what the top contracts are on the various chains. We have access to the ABIs. How do we have access to this? It's because thirdweb, all that infrastructure I was showing you that supports developers when you're building an app, like that token marketplace that I showed at the beginning, well, that is now accessible to Nebula as well. And so, that's where the power really happens. Did you have a question? I thought you might have had a question.
No, I was just no, that's perfect. Okay. What I wanted to say earlier was just like, because we talked about how cool Zello is, and then I was like, because the gas price is so low in the transaction that you looked at.
Yeah,
this one has very, very substantial fees.
I love it. I love the way you're like these little like subtle commercials you're throwing into this. Very subtle.
This especially this was super subtle. That's why I work in DevRel and not in marketing.
I got you. I think after this, we'll take a vote to see if you and I should start a podcast. It'll be a comedy podcast.
No shilling zone.
Yeah. All right. So I think what we should do now is do something kind of funner than this, which would be, hey, I want to launch a ERC20, a new ERC20. Okay. Of my own. And so, okay, let's give our token a name. So I'm going to say the name. What are we going to name our token? I'm going to call this like Zello Builder Workshop. And the symbol is going to be Zello Workshop, kind of CLW. And you generate an image for me. I want a cartoon image of the sun setting. Okay. So now what is Nebula going to do here? Kind of a couple of things. I've asked it to do some things. I asked it to generate an image. So it does have kind of some generative AI capabilities that you'd see in other LLMs. It's going to take that image. It's actually going to upload that to IPFS for me. And then the other thing that it's going to do is it's preparing a transaction of deploying an ERC20 to Zello with the parameters that I've given it. Okay. And so, we're kind of following along here with the reasoning. It generated an image. That was the first thing. Now it's using the image, right? So it's going to upload it to IPFS, and then, that's going to be linked in the metadata of the token. Ooh, wow. All right. Let's look at the image. Okay, not bad. I mean, it's not bad. It's happy. It's a happy sun. It's a happy sun. Of course, there are probably people right now who are front running this. Like they want to. This is going to make a lot of money, so everyone's front running this. But really,
you have to be careful. Somebody might steal that image.
Hey, look, feel free. Go to Nebula right now. But like, here's the important part, right? Is that what it also did is it prepared a transaction and that's ready to be executed. Okay. And so this is ready to be executed. And so if I say execute transaction, then what's happening here is this is like this transaction is being sent to the blockchain. You're probably wondering who or what is paying for the gas, right? So you see the transaction was confirmed. I got a transaction hash, and now Nebula, is being nice here and is actually performing like sort of like an analysis of it. So one of the other things that I kind of wanted, when I was talking about gas here, is that, my wallet is actually a smart account here. And so this was actually a gasless transaction, right? And so you can see here that our transaction and our, it told me what the contract address was going to be. And so now, our sunset kind of meme coin has been deployed to Cello. So that kind of shows you kind of the full kind of, what I would call maybe the loop, as well as the capabilities, right? It can read all of the things I showed you in our token marketplace about access to analytics, access to wallets, being able to perform transactions kind of like at scale in a gasless fashion, right? All of that. I can do swapping. So like our universal bridge as well is kind of built in to Nebula as well. So if I wanted to say, hey, I want to bridge, let's say USDC from one of those lesser chains to the coolest chain in the world, Cello, then I could do those sorts of things. And right. And so, so there, I'll pause there. That's kind of like, how to use Nebula the same way you can use ChatGPT.
Amazing. Yeah, and even with so much more functionality, right?
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. Great. We need more meme coins on Cello. Especially the ones that are so friendly. So thank you for providing that. So the smart, like as soon as I log into Nebula, like there's already like an account created for me, right? Like
Correct. There's
I
one
don't need
that
to connect my wallet or like expose any private keys, like if you would use like Claude and MCP
here,
servers.
yeah, I mean, here you have the choice, right? Similar to, like when I was logged in, right?
Yeah.
I could disconnect my wallet, the sign in, right? I could choose if I want to connect with my wallet, I can. Now, there's no sharing of private keys here. This is just like connecting to a dApp, any dApp. Where you can, pick either your wallet or you can just have a Nebula wallet generated for you.
What I just wanted to say, it's much safer than if you would do it with like a Web2 LLM, where you then have to, like, if you want to create any transactions, you either have to like approve them, like depending on like how you build it, you would have to, like,
Yes,
I think it's just like
I do. I mean, that's definitely what I would say, Lena, is one of the, working with folks who are building, let's say, AI agents or just AI enabled apps, in particular, if they're going to be performing transactions, then like the question of thinking about like wallets is an important consideration, right? Like and kind of permissioning around those wallets. So, I don't want to, this is probably for a future builder session. Like that's a whole topic is, talking about different wallets. What I would tell you though, really quickly, just from a thirdweb perspective, is we are working on like secure enclave, what we call vault based wallets. Think of these as like hosted server wallets that are non-custodial, but that have built into them permissioning that you can sort of control access to it. So the question you should be asking yourself if you're building an AI app is you should be asking yourself, well, am I just going to give it a wallet with the private key and let it do whatever it wants? Or do I want to give it, let's say, scoped access to a shared wallet? Maybe I have the wallet, like maybe it's a smart contract wallet. Maybe it's a 4337. And maybe what I want to do is I want to give the AI permission to access via like a session key to say, hey, I'm going to allow you to perform transactions out of this account, but it's subject to these limits, and it's subject to you can only perform those transactions on a specific list of smart contract addresses, right? It really depends, right? I think that there will just be, depending on the type of application, it will depend on how what sort of a permissioning model there. The example I like to say, Lena, would be, I'm the head of the household. Obviously, my wife has her own credit card, like exactly like mine, subject to no limits, or at least, but for example, the credit card that I give to my kids is going to be different, right? That
Yeah.
one is definitely subject to limits, and so how that's going to sort of play out. I mean, what we're trying to do is as a development platform for developers, we're trying to just kind of cover give you the optionality to pick the wallet solution that works best for your application.
I love the analogy with like how you create credit cards for your children. And all your agents are your little children, and this is why you have to control them.
They
So you
are.
can only spend money in those shops and not in other shops, and only that amount of money.
Exactly. And then there's sometimes I get a text message and I have to approve the transaction, right? Like I have to. Okay. So
Keep our agents in check.
that
Yeah.
is exactly right. That is exactly right. We don't want the God AI just, taking over everything right away. So
If it hasn't already.
so we have, I showed you Nebula, the app. If you go to our portal, you can see our API for Nebula. So if you're building an application and you want to be able to leverage it in your application, information about the API is there. So then the last thing here that I wanted to talk about was MCP, right? And so
Before you get into that, we have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I love it.
So Refi Starter asks, any contracts or NFT minters on Seller? The one on Playground is on Sepolia base.
Yeah, so I mean like everything that you see on the playground, those are just examples. They're live examples. We had to we just hardwired them to specific, but all of it, if you go to thirdweb.com/chainlist, right, it shows all of ours. And so if you go to Cello, everything that you see there in the playground, you can do with Cello, right? So the only difference is you just need to replace the chain ID with with either Cello mainnet or like the chain ID when you're using our SDK. But otherwise, all of the examples are relevant. Cool.
Cool. Perfect.
All right.
Cool. Now let's move on to the MCP servers.
I will. So let's talk about now MCP. Okay. So with MCP, what we were thinking about is as a company, we have all of these tools. And so MCP is really about is just a generic interface for being able to expose a tool that an AI can use. And so it was very natural for us at thirdweb to sort of say and this is something that we're doing right now kind of actively, is taking a look at all of the services that we provide and then thinking about, okay, like in the same way that a developer can access the tool via an API, we want an AI agent to be able to do a similar thing. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm actually going to switch. So let me just stop my sharing for a second, because then I'm going to bring up my Claude. And then what I'll do is show the MCP integration kind of like just in a generic tool. Okay. So let me come here. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Did that? Is it? Okay. I think I probably need to make this bigger. Is that showing up okay, Lena? Right there?
1 second. Yes, there we
Awesome.
go.
Okay.
That's perfect sizing.
Okay. So, those of you who are familiar with, okay, so this is Claude Desktop. And so you can instructions for this are on our Nebula website on how to set this up. If I'm in Claude, basically what happens is you go to settings real quick. Does that show? That doesn't show. If you go to settings and then developer, the instructions are there. If you set it up correctly, so in other words, what you need is you need a thirdweb API key. So basically what you need is a thirdweb API key. So if you just go to thirdweb, open up an account, you create your first project with there, you can grab an API key from there. If you put that into the configuration of your Claude, and if you do it correctly, then what should happen is, if you look at the tool bar, what you will find is you will find a bunch of tools. Let me just make this a little, okay, that are essentially we've exposed, okay? The descriptions kind of, hopefully help you to kind of have a high level sense of what these different tools do. Chat is kind of fun because chat is basically the same chat interface that you saw that we were just going over when we were doing when we were in the Nebula application is exposed here as a tool. And so I can actually get into a situation where Claude will chat with Nebula and they'll kind of have a conversation going back and forth. And so if this, let me just give an example here. So what I can say is I can say something like, what is the wallet address of ENS? This is my ENS. Okay. Okay. And so what it's doing, okay, so what you're seeing here is Claude using or itself trying to select the right tool from the available tools that I have configured to process this request. Okay. And so it's if you've ever worked with like AI agents and tools, you're basically just giving a set of tools with descriptions, and the AI agent selects it, decides on what it thinks the right tool for the job is. And so it picked, probably based off of the description and some of the metadata that we gave it, is we have a tool that you given an ENS will give you the address. And I know that this is the correct address. Things that I did before where I can say things like, can you get me the last block number on Cello mainnet? Okay, so it correctly is actually talking to Nebula here. So, and I can see the output. What it says is that it's sending to the Nebula chat. The message is, what is the latest block number on Cello mainnet? Right? And so when you look at the response, you can actually see the raw response that came back from Nebula. And then what you see, like similarly in, with Claude in general, is basically like this is the actual kind of formatted response that Claude is doing. So you can do everything from like what you can do here is kind of look at the different tools that are here, and from that you can build sort of like your agentic workflow, right? So I can say, well, what is the balance of that wallet? And so, again, it's a different, like, it called a different, um, uh, and this is a great example. This is actually a great example. So I asked it for the balance, and so you can see here that like this is Claude trying to figure out what is the right one. So it tried a couple, got some errors, and then so it tried get native balance, it tried get address tokens, and then it also tried chat. And then based off of that, it sort of like comes up with like what the answer is. So again, I didn't tell Claude to call those tools. Claude itself sort of decided to to pick kind of the order of the tools to try to process the request. So this is kind of like, stay tuned with thirdweb. So what we're actually like in the process of doing is also exposing our docs as an MCP tool. So when you're thinking about vibe coding today, you want to, if you're in your cursor or whichever development environment you're using, you want to be able to just like, hey, I want to build an app and I want to use thirdweb's SDK to do this. That would be inclusive of us exposing things like our docs as an MCP server and other kinds of APIs that we have. So that's all stuff that we're kind of working on very actively today. If you go to our portal.thirdweb.com, or if you do a support request today with thirdweb, you'll see that there's like an AI agent that is there that you can ask actually questions about how to code. So if you have a question about the SDK, if you're getting an error with the SDK, you can go to that AI agent that's on thirdweb.com, and you can ask those sorts of things. You can give it big code snippets, and you can tell it like, tell me what's wrong with this. So what we want to do now is bring that within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be exposing that as an MCP server, so that now all you'll need to do is just include your thirdweb docs MCP in your cursor, and now that coding AI agent would be able to access thirdweb's code repository in that way and help you build very, very quickly your Web3 app. So that was a lot. I know that was definitely a lot, Lena.
I think I just find it really, I'm very excited for this. I think we're also working on that with Cello. Like we have a Cello MCP server and Cello Composer Kits MCP server.
Yeah.
And we already had a workshop, and I think definitely let us know when you're ready with that, and then we can have another little workshop on that, because I think that would be really interesting also, just like for everybody here to see how to use them. And yeah, just a huge fan. I think they make everything so much easier, no?
Yeah.
And quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, for everybody, like if you still have questions about anything, I mean, it was, Eamon, I think you shared a lot, but I think you explained it in such a way that it was like very easy to understand. And
Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Um,
No, that's good to hear. I mean, it is a lot. What I would just say to folks is like, you can hear me talk all day, but the best thing for you to do is just go to nebula.thirdweb.com and start using it, right? Like, or come to our portal and start asking our AI here, your coding questions. That more than anything else is the best way to get familiar with it.
Yeah, agree.
And then obviously what I would also say there too, Lena, is just like my DMs are open on Twitter. And so folks do want to, I'm always open to folks reaching out if you're building an app and you have questions about how to do certain things or how to do certain things with thirdweb, I'm glad to, be as helpful as I can there.
That would have been my next question, and thank you for already answering that. This is how you can find Eamon, and just ask any question that you might have. Also, maybe follow for updates. I don't know how active you are on posting about all the updates on thirdweb, but
I don't know that I'm the greatest resource for that, but definitely our team at thirdweb is, is
definitely
always
also make
posting
sure
very
to
cool
follow
content.
thirdweb, so you're the first to know when the MCP servers are out, the new ones.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Good. Yeah, I would say it looks like we should have another little workshop very soon. I know, I feel like the thirdweb team is always cooking. You're always pushing out so many new solutions and the best tools. So it's always great to have you on.
Well, appreciate that, Lena. And this was fun. This was a lot of fun. So, more than anything else, I would love, what would be really fun would be a workshop like this. That's almost like a showcase of different apps that the audience has built. That would be,
We can, I think, I'm very sure we can make that happen, especially like if we do like a little vibe coding with like thirdweb MCPs and seller MCPs, and then let's see what people build in like a day. In 5 hours. My last hackathon, like last weekend, I was like at ZK Hack in Berlin. I saw people build something amazing in 5 hours. They were like, I came at 12 p.m. for like judging, and they were like, yeah, we started this morning, and they won. It was just great.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. It is very empowering. I mean, no joke. Like it is like if you, when you're using these things to build, I personally, I don't really write code anymore. I spend, it's kind of funny. Like my wife will be, what are you doing? And I'll be like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, because I use it like I hate typing when I'm giving prompts, and so I just have this, F5. And so I'm just sitting there and talking to and she's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm talking to my AI coding agents. That's what I'm doing. I think she's a little jealous, Lena. I don't know. She doesn't believe me.
Does your agent already have a name? That's always a question.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. We'll talk about that offline.
That is too personal for like a public space.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Offline.
I have a question for you. There's a quick question from the audience. Are all thirdweb accounts smart accounts?
They are. So when you like in the login that I showed you, the default is that it's a smart account in the Nebula app. However, inside that, so I'm going to show you real quick. I'm still sharing, right? Okay, perfect. So if I just go back there, so I'm just going to. So if you look at this, oh, not that, sorry. Where was it? It's here. And there, oh, it's here. Okay, sorry. Okay, so if you look at this, you'll see actually 2 accounts were created, right? So by default, there's a smart account, which you can use, which is the gasless one. But also there is a connected to, because I logged in with Eamon at thirdweb.com. There's also a embedded wallet, an in-app wallet we call, that has this address. So if I flip to this now, and then I try to do my deploy my token, if it would have prompted me to say, hey, because I don't have any Cello in here, I would have needed to have some Cello in my wallet to be able to perform the deployment of that meme coin. So it's not like both options are there for you when you log in.
So Do you only sponsor on Cello? Are they only gasless? Like if they are gasless, you are sponsoring those transactions right now, right?
That is correct.
Do you only do that on Cello because it's so cheap, or do you do that on other chains as well?
So we're doing that on any on we couldn't leave without a final commercial from brought to you by Lena. So what I would say there is I would say that in Nebula right now, any of the main nets that we have account abstraction enabled for can you can do gasless.
Okay, very, very cool.
Yeah. But obviously you should take into consideration, speed and in general, if you're building your own app, that's where, you need to consider, do you want to sponsor gas and
1 second block finality.
Yes.
If you want to sponsor transactions for your users, choose the cheapest chain. And I mean only with gas fees, otherwise not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to Lena, everybody. Listen to Lena.
Listen to me. Very cool. I will just show a final slide for people to one more question.
Yeah.
So any way to harmonize both accounts functionality since message sender instance changes?
Not really. I mean, it's 4337 that's happening under the covers there. And so in one case, it's a user op. In the other case, you're sending a user op via bundler paymaster, which is a different kind of chain of transaction flow on chain versus if you're sending this directly from an EOA wallet. So there's really no way, in the same way that you can't harmonize it, MetaMask versus, I'm using a smart account, a 4337 smart account. So it's kind of choosing the right wallet and transaction flow for what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much.
All right.
I think this was great. I learned a lot. I think everybody else also. We had quite some people joining. Just a final shout out, built on Cello, using these MCP servers and build build cool AI agents with Nebula, because that's the best way to do it right now out there. And if you build anything with anything that we talked about today, make sure to submit it to proof of ship 6 so we can also see that and applaud you for that and also give you rewards for that. And also, if you want, you can share that under this live stream. That's also fine. And then we invite you to the next live stream to show that. And yeah, just wanted to also share, we have currently a lot of opportunities in the Cello ecosystem. I think around 100K in Cellos that are being distributed for rewards, for incentives. And in general, if you build on Cello, there are rewards for you. And for now, just make sure to follow us on Twitter, the Cellodesk account. You can get a collectible for this workshop today, so you can prove on chain that you attended today and what you learned. And join our Cello Builders Telegram group. That's the QR code on the right side. And that's the old one, so don't look at that. And yeah, I think that's it. No, follow me also on Twitter, so you get all of the updates on all of the cool toolings on Cello. And that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Eamon, thank you so much. This was great. This was a lot of fun. Let's do this soon.
All right. Have a good day, evening, everyone. Thanks.
Everybody, bye.
Bye.